bring to you today two words that normally aren't put together: artistic diplomacy. Diplomacy is the skill or the way that we can sensitively and positively interact with other people. So, as we've seen, there's tons of conflict around us. We always have conflict around us. But how can we begin to positively and sensitively deal with other people? And I use the word sensitive as a word of strength and not of weakness. We've had that word used as something that is associated with weakness, but I use it as a strength, because when we are using our senses, our sensory experience, we can actually pick up on other people's tone of voice, other people's body language, other people's feelings, emotions, words. All of those things actually give us insight into what that other person is thinking, feeling, where they're coming from. And that's a huge strength. That's a huge asset. That's a big skill that we're talking about when we're talking about the word diplomacy. Because when we're interacting with other people, there's a skill, there's an art to interacting with people in a kind and positive way. Now, you might ask, why do I want to do that? Why do I want to interact with people in a kind and positive way? They don't think the same as I do. They don't believe the same as I do. They totally have a different idea of what A, B, C, D should look like. Then there's no reason I should even talk to them, get along with them, be nice to them, ... All right. Well, if we approach it that way, then we are perpetuating a sense of conflict. And what happens when we keep perpetuating that conflict, then we can begin to create some collateral damage. What does collateral damage look like? Well, it looks like increased stress rates. It can look like increased anxiety, depression, illness, any sort of other health issue. So that's what happens when we continue to perpetuate conflict, and also we begin to disregard another side or another person as we don't even need to try. We don't even need to try to interact. We don't even need to try to discuss. And that can come from a win-lose mentality. It can come from a me versus them mentality, or us versus them mentality. And let me tell you, from a global standpoint, every civil war, every genocide, every major conflict has come from that mentality. So ask yourself now, is that a mentality you want to continue to perpetuate? Or are you open to exploring the idea of diplomacy and beginning to create a win-win mentality, as if we can all problem solve and work through this together and all get our interests and our needs met simultaneously at the same time, because we are willing to look for solutions. We're willing to problem solve. And that is where every global peace deal has stemmed from. It's come from that commitment to working together, to problem solving, and to finding solutions that benefit both sides. So we're talking about diplomacy, and then we're talking about artistic diplomacy. So where do the arts fall into this? Okay, well, when we're finding solutions, when we're problem solving, when we're finding win-win answers, that comes from the creative and innovative part of our brain. And that same part of our brain that the arts help us tap into. So when we're in that creative mode and we are able to more fluidly problem solve, find answers, have dialogues with others, when that part of our brain is turned on, the cool thing is our language piece of our brain is also turned on. So we have better access to words and language when we're trying to communicate with others. So this is where the arts can be a major tool for diplomacy or creating win-win situations, is because not only are we tapping into that part of our brain, but then when we are actively using the arts. So maybe that's coming together for an art show. Maybe that is doing a dance class together. Maybe that is doing some martial arts together. Maybe that is going to a music concert. Whatever that might be, if you think about it, those activities, and I say the word activities because it's action, it's an action, bring people together in a neutral setting. It doesn't matter what background you're from, it doesn't matter what belief system you have, it does not matter what group you're from, it does not matter. Everybody can come together and enjoy the arts when it's in a healthy situation. And so that's what the arts can do. It can bring people together who may not normally even speak to each other, who may disregard each other, who may have written off each other. But the arts is a really, really, really great way to begin to not only bring people together, but it's a tool for introspection. So if we're going to begin to bridge healthy relationships, if we're going to create diversity and inclusion in our communities, our workplaces, our families, our social circles, it takes some introspection. It takes the time to look within yourself and learn, what are my biases? Why did I write that person off? Did I just assume that they were harmful or a threat to me and I just automatically wrote them off and declared them as an other or somebody I'm not going to like or get along with or have a dialogue with? So begin to explore, what are those biases? What are your biases? And how has that affected that relationship building? And the arts can help us do that. So if you think about through writing, through any sort of somatic experience, which is what we call an experience using the body. So that could be yoga, that can be a form of dance, that can be a form of martial arts. We begin to use those modalities as a form of expression and introspection. We actually spend some time with ourselves and begin to release any emotions that we might have. The arts can really give us some perspective into other people's worlds. It helps us step into other people's shoes. And that can create a sense of empathy in itself. And it takes that sense of empathy when we're going to practice diplomacy, right? Because we were just talking about diplomacy as being that skill or that approach to sensitively and positively interacting with other people. And empathy is at the heart of that. That's what really makes that diplomacy work. And then when we can gain creative tools to support empathy and build empathy, then that's where the magic really happens.